management world right now. My training, my business is mostly in the more traditional, manager subordinate area. And so I have to be honest with you, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into at this event. And so, in order for me to kind of get a read on the audience here, I'd like to know how all of you are doing today. So, please, if you have multiple screens open, open up another browser, grab your device, your smartphone. And what I'd like you to do is help me out with getting a read on how you are doing today. So please go, opening your phone or on another browser, go to menti.com, and using this code that you see up here, 2135782, tell me how you're feeling today. You can see we've got a collage of Michael Scott from The Office. I will tell you, I don't think there is a more expressive person out there on television. So when I was putting this slide together, I had a multitude of emotions to pick from. And so I thought I would use this as a barometer for how we're feeling today. I can see that we've got some people that have let us know. We've got somebody who is feeling a little bit suave. We got somebody who's feeling hopefully just surprised and not angry. We've got some people that are feeling, we've got somebody who's feeling a little sad and some people that are feeling happy. We've got some people feeling like, I don't know. Oh, I love it. Somebody is actually feeling like, I'm not sure if that's relaxed as if you have tea bags on your eyes or needing to relax and put some tea bags on your eyes. So I love this exercise actually because this is such a fun way for us to interact with the presentation, but it's also a fun way to just tell me how you're feeling today. I noticed nobody picked the one of Michael Scott with the bandana on. I guess that's pretty good because I think that was actually the episode when he was in jail. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but anyway, so thank you for that. I think that the audience is in good stead with me, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and go back to me and just talk a little bit about what I'm going to be chatting about today. Let's see here. I'm going to bring you in on this screen. I'm sharing again, and now you should be able to see my presentation. And my presentation, of course, today is called Leading Projects with Respect. And I'll start it off a little bit with me. Of course, that's a picture of me there. You can see that. Let me just give you a snapshot. You read my bio. I'm not going to go into that. But what I want to talk a little bit about is how I ended up with this topic. So there's me, and I've been a learning and development professional for a really long time. And over the course of all this time, I've met an awful lot of people who have shared their stories with me. I am one of those people that others trust with their stories. And so, yeah, I've met a lot of people. And as I said, they have given me their stories, and many of those stories started with this idea of, I hate my manager, or I'm quitting because my manager is so mean to me. And it just kept there were so many instances of this same thing, this mistreatment by managers and people leaving their jobs because of it. And after some time of hearing this actually started to weigh on me. It weighed on me so heavily that I thought, oh my gosh, somebody has to do something about this. And so eventually I thought, I'm somebody, you know, I can do something. And so I set about writing a book. And actually, to be honest with you, what I thought I would do at the beginning is just write a post and put it up on LinkedIn. And then as I started digging into these stories that people gave me, as developing case studies, doing the research, I realized that this is actually a thing. In fact, this is a big thing. And it became much bigger than a LinkedIn post. And that's where the book was born. And then when I got to a certain stage in the progress of the book, I decided I needed to put all my efforts behind that. And I left my job in the IT world, in the tech world, and created my own company called Sea Change Learning and Development. My flagship program in this company is called Leading with Respect. And as I said before, my work primarily takes me into the more traditional manager subordinate area. I work with leaders, asking them, maybe why their teams aren't performing the way they would like them to do. Why is retention so poor? Why are so many people leaving their companies? And when I was thinking about this session and how to kind of modify my message, or do I even need to modify my message for the project management world, it kind of made me wonder, why is so many people sign up for this session? And so take out your devices again, and let's do another one of these Menti exercises. I'm going to share my screen with you again. And I'd love for you, please, to again go to menti.com using the same code 2135782, which you'll see right at the top of this slide. Please tell me, what drew you to this session? What are you hoping to learn from it? What made this topic interesting to you? So again, just go to menti.com and use this code 2135782 and just let me know, why are you here? Ah, great. Okay, so we've got some good things. Oh, I see I've got a fellow L&D person here. So that's great. Nice to have that person, that sympathetic ear in the audience. I see we have somebody who wants to learn some skills to become a better people manager. That's amazing. Different cultural expectations for respect. We need to dig in a little bit on that. I'm not sure who put that in there, but feel free to put something in chat as to what this you were referring to. There's some interest in the subject. I love this comment here. Respect is often not given, especially in a difficult project situation. We've got a couple of people that are interested in the subject. Oh, I love it. Thank you very much. It's a catchy title. Developing people management skills, looking for that extra little bit of information to put in your toolkit. So great. Well, I'm certain that we can cover off many of these areas in our talk today, and I invite you along the way to feel free to put your questions in chat, ask away. I'm happy to answer them, and yeah, put your thoughts in chat as well. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Okay, so we'll give it another minute. I think there's some other things coming in here. Oh, here's a nice comment. Gaining giving respect is fundamental to management. Oh, I lost it. It scrolled. Oh, and this one here. People leave organizations when they feel they are not respected by their leaders. Need to make sure that respect is mutual. So I have this feeling just looking at some of these comments that this is something that maybe has been a touch point for you. Perhaps you have felt undervalued and underappreciated. Perhaps you have felt a lack of respect yourself, but I love that so many people are interested in this. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm going to pause that now, and we'll just escape out of that, and I will bring you back. Okay, so let me stop the screen share and come back to me. So thank you for all of that feedback. I really appreciate it. And I think, we are kind of spot on with what this presentation hopes to inform you with, and of course, what you were hoping to learn. And so I'm going to go back to my presentation. Where are we here? And we'll go on to the next slide. Thank you. While I'm juggling all these different screens. So the overarching theme of my work, of my book, is respect. In fact, this was when I was talking to these people, when they were telling me their stories, this is the thing that was common amongst all of them. And in fact, it was really interesting. listening to their stories. And in my book, I feature 7 people. They are real people in real jobs with real stories. And I feature those stories of why they quit their jobs, most of the time within just a very short time frame. It, 2 years, maybe in some cases under a year. And as they were telling me their stories, I thought, you know what? Really, what they were looking for is some respect. So this became the overarching theme of my work. And it also led me into an acronym. So each of those letters became an acronym. And at the center of this is this concept of relationships. That's the R in respect. And then around them, out of relationships, come these other leadership topics. So as I was doing my research, as I was writing the book, I came up with these 7 things that I think are really important traits to possess as a leader. So we have relationships, empathy, support, promotion, empowerment, consideration, and trust. One of the problems that you have in project management is this idea that you have to manage teams without authority. It may be the case that you do have people reporting to you on a consistent basis, but more likely you've assembled a project team and that team is there with you for just a short time. And this, you have to try to manage this team without having any authority over them. So this can mean, of course, that if you are challenged, you may face resistance, you may have little power to deal with some of the challenges that come up. And so I think this is all the more reason to really dig into these leadership traits that I outlined. So let's take a closer look at them. We're going to start off with relationships. As I mentioned before, and as you saw on that previous graphic, relationships, or the developing of a strong relationship, is really at the center of everything. This is the most important thing that you can do in managing people with respect. So develop a relationship. Take some time to do that. And the best way for you to do that is to have regular, frequent, and consistent one-on-one conversations. Now, you may be groaning a little bit inwardly or maybe even outwardly at this, because this is something that soft skills people like me have been talking about for some time. But the one-on-ones really do make a difference in establishing productive, effective relationships amongst the team. I'm going to stop the share for a minute here and just kind of see what is happening out there, what your thoughts are. So, do you all know where the raised hands feature is? Up top, at the top of your screen, there is a little hand that you can raise. Okay. Let's see. We've got a few people that are raising hands already, so they know where the raise hand feature is. Thank you for that. I see that that's happening. Okay, so let's take your hands down for now. And I'm going to do an activity with you. So here's what I'd like you to do. If this applies to you, then please do a raised hand. Okay? So I would like you to raise your hand if you have regular check-ins with your project teams. So raise hands if you do regular check-ins. Ooh, I see a lot of hands going up, just pretty much everybody. I think a great many of us do regular check-ins with our project teams. Okay, those hands are still going up. I see lots and lots of hands going up, but I also see many hands not raised. So that could just be that they haven't gotten there yet, but okay, that's fine. So leave your hands raised for now. Now, if your check-ins happen once a week, leave your hand up. If not, please lower your hand. So do you have check-ins once a week? Leave your hand up. If so, lower your hand if not. Okay. So I see we still got a lot of the same hands up. So people are still they're checking in really frequently. That's great. So keep your hand up, please, if you talk about more than tasks in your check-ins. Okay, if you don't talk about more than tasks, then please put your hand down. If your discussions are all task related, project related, please put your hand down. Okay, so a couple of hands have started going down. All right, keep your hand up if you speak about personal stuff in your conversations, in your one-on-ones. So keep your hands up if you speak about personal stuff. Again, we've got quite a few that have stayed up there. That's excellent, but a few are starting to go down. Now, keep your hand up if you talk about what is going to happen after the project in terms of their personal growth. The people who are reporting to you for this project, do you talk with them about what happens after the project and their personal growth? Ah, okay, a lot of hands went down there. A lot of hands went down. Okay, and then keep your hands up if you speak about more than personal, or sorry, more than project related things. Okay, so we're back up on that. So what's interesting about this is we had so many of us that were conversing regularly. Now, as a project manager, I think it's important for you, I'm sure it's important for you to be checking in regularly with your team members and asking them how things are going. You know, having those moments where you check in and make sure that things are on track. One of the more challenging aspects, though, I suspect, is this idea of what else do you talk about? It is the easiest thing for us to talk about as managers is the tasks, the duties, the what we're working on. The things that are more challenging for us to converse about are things like that, the personal aspects, and things that like the professional development aspects. I've created a template. This is available on my website, and I will make sure that you have the um, the link for it before the end of the session today. I've got a template for holding a one-on-one conversation. And when I'm speaking to managers about how they should format this one-on-one conversation, I'm suggesting that they take 10 minutes and devote that to topics that the employee, in this case, the people on your project team, what they want to talk about. Then I'm suggesting that you take some time for you and for the topics that you need to talk about. And then I'm also advocating that you devote some time in this check-in to professional development. Now, in a project, you might be thinking, what's the point of that? Well, firstly, if we dive into the what's in it for the employee, that time for them to focus in on what's important to them, this is where you get a read on who they are, what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, what's important to them, what they feel is the benefit of being on this project team. And this is also where you get those clues to how you can best help them to maximize their performance on your team. This is also the place where you find out about these different personalities, and you, as the manager, can make better decisions on how you have your team interact, how they collaborate with each other. This is also very helpful for those times, which I'm sure are inevitable, where your teams have conflict. If you have an understanding of the people, then you are better able to work through those issues. Now, the last bit about professional development, again, you might be wondering about the why behind that, but we find out a lot of clues about the drivers for the motivation to be part of this project team and what is going to really help them excel in this project. So take some time in your one-on-one conversation and ask them some questions like what they hope to get out of this. Why did they sign up to be on this project? Why do they think they were chosen to be on this project? What do they hope to do with what they've learned after the project is finished? And then when you have this information, use this again to spark conversation, to focus their efforts, to channel their enthusiasm. This is an incredible way for you to get to know them and what makes them tick. Now, let's have a special discussion here on the time that we are currently in. We are in a situation that we've never experienced before in the business world, this pandemic era. And this is a time when so many people are feeling disconnected. They are feeling lonely. They are feeling stressed out. They are feeling burned out. And they are feeling, frankly, like people don't care. Now, you as a project manager, if you are trying to drive a project through to a successful completion, don't you think it's important for you to know how they are feeling? Getting them to open up with how they are feeling will be really challenging for you if you don't know them as a person. So let me share my screen again. I want to go over to the next slide. And the next one is about empathy. So in my mind, you can't really have empathy for somebody if you don't know them. So type in chat for me. What do you think empathy is? How does empathy come into play in projects, in this remote work project environment? How does it come into play? I'm going to stop my screen share so I can see the chat. So just put into chat. What are your thoughts? How does empathy come into play with what you do? What are your what is empathy to you? Ah, yeah, showing understanding for someone's situation or perspective, a neutral understanding without judgment. Oh, that's great. Consider it towards others, seeing life from the other's point of view, putting yourself in their shoes. Absolutely, it is all of these things. This is what empathy is. And when you are in a situation with a team, when you are trying to get them the best from them, it is very, very helpful for you, again, to understand what drives them and to be on side with them, to show them that you are there with them to support them. Empathy is especially important when you get into those difficult conversations. You know those ones when you have your team is fighting, or when somebody doesn't want to work with somebody else, or when you are trying to get somebody to do extra work in a certain direction and they don't want to be doing it. And so if you can come from a place of empathy, then this will help you to achieve what you need to achieve and to have them on side in this process. Your priorities in the case of difficult conversations like these have to be maintaining the relationship and being honest and being kind. And that all comes from a place of empathy. If you go in there with guns a blazing, will people do what you want them to do? Well, yeah, they probably will, but they're not going to do it to their best effort. They're going to do the least they have to do because they don't like you, frankly. So, understanding what they are going through, understanding their perspectives. Thank you very much, Tracy. Understanding the perspective of others on the team. This will really, really help you in being able to drive forward the relationships, to deal with team conflicts, and to get the productivity that you need. So, one thing that is very, very important in these empathy conversations is to be sincere. So make sure that you are your sincere self. Nobody wants to connect with a fake person. So the more sincere you are, the better for you. Now let's move on to the next three topics. I put these all together on one slide because I really do feel that they are related. And all three of these topics, support, consideration, and trust, these are all contributors to a sense of well-being in the workplace. I'd like to share with you an example from my book. Oh, sounds like somebody's having a tea. So I'd like to share with you an example from my book, and this is the story of Simone. Simone got a new job and she was so excited about being part of this team. She poured everything into it, and her team loved her, and her boss seemed to really like her, thought she did some great work. And then she was moved over to a different boss. And this boss, on their very first meeting, said to Simone, "You know, I didn't really want you on my team." Well, I'm sure you can imagine how that landed with her. How would you feel about it if somebody came to you and said, "I don't want you on my team"? So Simone struggled to get this person to like her. Honestly, Simone's work started to suffer. I'll share with you that Simone is from overseas, and so she has an accent, and her new boss made fun of her accent as well, which of course caused things to be even worse. Simone would stutter, and then of course the bullying just got worse and worse from there. And Simone eventually said, "I can't do this anymore." So although she really liked the work and she really liked her team, she left because of the way she was treated. When I asked her what she would have liked, she said she wished that he would have supported her. She wished that when she came to her boss with questions, that he would provide her with answers or refer her to those who could provide the answers. She wished that he was more considerate of her feelings. And she mostly wished that if he didn't want her on his team, instead of telling her that, she wished he had told his boss that so that she could have been allocated elsewhere. I'm not going to lie, that story kind of broke my heart. But I will tell you that when you are a manager that bullies, that makes fun of people, that works from a place of complete lack of consideration, and when you don't provide any support or any guidance, direction to your team members, this makes them profoundly unhappy. Now let's move into this concept of trust. Trust is a very important factor in managing a project successfully. Um, I think that trust might be one of the most important things that you have on this team. There's a great quote from Hemingway. Now, before I get into the quote, I will say that, there's a phrase out there a lot of people say that trust is something that you earn. And okay, I think that's probably true. However, I'm going to suggest as project managers, when you assemble a team and when you have to get things up and running quickly, perhaps the better thing for you to do is assume trust. Trust that you have people with the knowledge, the skills, the abilities to do the work. Trust first. So here's the quote from Hemingway. "The best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them." I thought this was a terrific quote because, again, you're starting off with a project you have to ramp up quickly. So you need to have people ready to go right away. If there's no trust, you'll have people that don't want to speak their minds. They're afraid to voice their opinions or to put forward ideas. And my goodness, for the success of a project, you need people to be able to do that. So let's move on and dig a little bit deeper in trust. So if you have a high trust environment, these are the benefits that you'll see from it. I think some of the big key things here are this idea of sharing thoughts and ideas and having people ready to own up to their mistakes and knowing that if they did make a mistake, that there will be somebody there to support them and help them and get them back on the rails. So in the case of a high trust environment, you see that there are people who are willing to dig in and deal with the consequences, that are willing to take risks, that are willing to put forward ideas. The converse is this lack of trust environment. And you see all of the negative things that happen there. And I hope this isn't the case, but I would guess it probably is the case that you've experienced some of these things, either as a PM or as somebody who is on a project team. And it's not good. It is really not comfortable. Um, there's a book. This is actually cited in some of your PMI resources. And there's a book that I highly recommend if you want to dig deeper into the topic of trust. It's this one. It's called The Speed of Trust. It's written by Stephen M.R. Covey. You might be familiar with that name, Stephen Covey. After all, Stephen R. Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that's a business classic. I will tell you that's also an amazing book. It's a classic for a reason. If you haven't read it, read it. Stephen M.R. Covey is his son, and he has written The Speed of Trust. And I'll just show you. You can see how many things I've flagged in here. If you were to open the book, you'll see that I've got highlighted sections I've written in it. This is an amazing book talking about the importance of trust. But in this book also, and this is where I think some real value comes from with this concept of trust, is Stephen M.R. Covey talks about trust as a function of, of trust affecting speed and cost. So in a high trust environment, things typically get done more quickly and at a lower cost. When you have a low trust environment, it takes longer to get things done, and typically the costs are higher. So extending that trust, earning that trust, being trusted, trusting others and then being trustworthy in return are huge factors in how well this project will go for you. So great. Thank you, Carl, for your comment. Yes, extending trust is key. And as we said, trust affects more than just a nice team environment. Trust also affects the speed of the project and the costs associated with it. Important factors. All right, let's move on, and I will just share my screen again. We'll move into the next two categories here, and those are promotion and empowerment. So let's talk about promotion first. There are a lot of people that want to grow and develop in a company. They want to have a sense of progression, of moving forward. And so they join, maybe they ask to be on a project, maybe they join a project with this idea of it being a career forwarding move. And so promotion, this concept of developing professionally, becomes very, very important to them. And so that's we bring it back to that discussion, the one-on-one conversation where I suggested spending some time talking about professional development. This is where this comes in. They're looking for this project to enhance their knowledge set, their skill set, to draw upon their talents, and to give them something that will help them move forward in their careers. Now, maybe what they want to do is become a PM themselves. Maybe they want to do something else and they see being part of this project team as an opportunity to make themselves visible in that area, perhaps learn from the best and take that new knowledge into a new role. Regardless, people want to be part of a project team for a number of different reasons. Promotion is a very, very important thing. In fact, a sense of this of moving forward, of progressing and being better at what you do is a key driver for motivation. Now, let's talk about empowerment. I'm going to stop the screen share here again, and I'm going to ask you to uh, raise your hands if you've ever been micromanaged. So let's see. Have anybody here ever been micromanaged? Okay. Oh, look at all these hands going up. Lots of hands are going up. I think a lot of us have felt what micromanagement feels like. Okay. So let me ask you to keep your hand up if you liked being micromanaged. A lot of hands are going down very quickly. Anybody? Is there anybody who likes being micromanaged? Nobody? We've got a few people whose hands are still up. Okay, maybe they do. No, nope, those hands are going down. So really, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that nobody likes being micromanaged. And I think when people are chosen for a team, they like to think that they were selected to be on this team, or that that they're there for a reason, that they have the talent, the knowledge, the skills, the abilities to be a contributor on the team. Now, when you do not empower your team members, when you are super controlling, when you dominate every decision, you make them feel like there's no value to them being there. And that's a place they don't want to be. And all of us who felt that sting of micromanagement can relate to that. As a project manager, it's true, you're responsible for the smooth running of the project and you're responsible for the success of the project. So I understand that you want to monitor all these tasks carefully, that you want to be doing so at the highest level of detail. And I understand that you'd want to have control over it. However, when you take away that the ability of others to make decisions and you don't trust their capabilities, well, you do so at your own peril. So thank you for that comment. Let me just check. There's a beautiful comment in chat from Abinay, I believe it is. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Micromanagement kills creativity and free thought. I love that word. That's a powerful word that you used. Kills it. And I bet that project managers, were I to ask them, do you want your team members to have no creativity or free thought? I would bet they would unanimously say no. I like when they put forward ideas, or I want them to feel free to express their ideas. But if you are a micromanager, if you do not empower them to do things, then you are killing that desire to contribute. So keep in mind that you are managing the project and not every single individual task. When you start the project, make yourself aware of who's bringing what to the project team. Guess what? Guess what the best way is for you to do this? Yes, that's correct. The one-on-one conversation. Oh, remember, all of this springs from having a relationship. If you are having these one-on-one conversations, you're developing that relationship with the people on your project team, then you will know what you are safe giving them. You will feel confident that they can handle the tasks. And if you can do this, you'll do your own job much better. So let's go back to my presentation again. I'm going to go to this last slide here, and I'm going to say that we're going to return to the overarching theme, this idea of respect. So within respect comes the aspects of relationships, empathy, support, promotion, empowerment, consideration, and trust. So that brings us to the end of this formal part of the presentation. What I'd love right now is to ask you for your questions. What questions do you have? And while you are submitting your questions and while I'm taking some time to answer them, please answer the survey. Ed's going to be putting a survey into the chat. and he's going to ask you for your feedback on this session. So please take some time to complete that survey as well. So what questions do we have? Does anybody have a question about this, or does anybody have comments, anything you would like to dig into further regarding this idea of respect? Aha, so a great thing here, the great question. What are the top 3 things to do to gain and give respect? So thank you, Pratap, for that question. I'm going to suggest the number one thing you should do. Can anybody guess? I bet you could guess this if I give you a moment. The number one thing that you can do is have that one-on-one conversation. We've got a couple of people in here saying to listen. And absolutely, it is a one-on-one conversation. It's a dialogue, meaning that this is an opportunity for you to share some of your thoughts, but it's also an opportunity for you to learn their thoughts. So the number one thing that I would suggest is having that one-on-one conversation. While you are in that one-on-one conversation, remember that a one-on-one is not the same as a quick check-in. So in your one-on-one conversation, you want to make sure that you have some time. If you recall, I showed the template. Break up your conversation into 3 areas. Give some time for your team member to talk about what's important to them, what's happening in their lives, what's happening in their project. If you download the template from my website, you'll see that I even include some questions. So to find out a little bit about them, simply ask, what are your plans for the weekend? How are things going? And in this time of COVID, questions like that with delivered sincerely are so appreciated. How are things? What's happening in your world? How can I support you? So very important for you to ask those questions, and very important for you to listen to the responses. Um, Take some time to find out about their professional development as well. So that's great. Now, we also have some comments in here. Hopefully that helps, Pratap. Then, as I said, I think the number one most important thing for you to do is have that one-on-one conversation on a regular, frequent, and consistent basis, and to listen to them, to make sure that they feel supported, that they feel that you are considerate, and that they can trust you. So now we have a comment here from SMD. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is, but SMD said, give respect to get respect. And I love that notion. It's so important for people to feel that they are valued, that they are appreciated. That's a really key thing. So getting back to that question about 3 things, that's another one. Thank you so much for that, SMD. Tom says one-on-ones are key for creating a connection. If our only interaction is business meetings, we will never connect rather as human beings. So thank you, Tom. That is so wise. Really appreciate that. We've got comments in here about giving autonomy. Catherine asks, what advice do you have for stepping into a new project in an existing team with a trust issue? Yikes. Particularly for managing up to the team's management around this issue. Managing up, I think I get asked that question pretty much every single time that I am presenting. And it's largely because so many people do not have these one-on-one conversations with their managers. So Catherine, let's take this into 2 parts. The first part I will deal with in terms of the managing up. One of the best things I can recommend for this is to ask for that one-on-one conversation. And the reason I suggest this is because so many managers don't even think about this being a thing. But if you were to ask to have a regular conversation, they will soon fall into that cadence and realize that they kind of like it. So that's a great way. I know I have done this with my bosses, and at first, not even kidding you, they're like, I don't even know what to do about this. And then, um, after, as I said, after a time, they realize that they kind of like it, that they are in the loop, that there's communication, that things are going well. So do that to manage up, and they'll get used to it. And you might find them even embracing this concept and taking it over to other team members. The other question is, what advice do you have for stepping into a new project with an existing team with a trust issue? So my best advice for that is to really get to know the people as individuals. Now, you are a project manager. You have to do what's ultimately best for the project. But if you can hear their stories, if you can see what has happened, if you can gain some insight, this will help you to be able to deal with it. So speak to each of them individually. Find out, ask the tough question. Why is there a trust issue here? What concerns you about this? And see what they share with you. I hope that helps. So Denise asks, what do you do if someone refuses to have a one-on-one meeting with you? Instead, they prefer to send weekly status reports. Okay, well, that is probably a reflection of their discomfort with having meetings in general. Perhaps they've been burned in the past. Perhaps they don't trust you yet. And so if that's the case, allow them to send these status reports, but tell them that you would then like to have a conversation about the status report. So that would be great. Please send that to me, and then let's set up a time. Let's set up 15 minutes to talk about it. In terms of the refusal to have a one-on-one meeting, again, I think that's a trust issue. They're not sure what you want to get out of this. They don't see the point of it. And so perhaps what you can do is say to them, look, this is something that I have done with all the project teams, and I'll send you an agenda of things that I would like to talk about first. And I would love for you to do the same with me, to send me some things that you would like to talk about in our meeting. And that's how we'll start. Okay, so just insist upon it. Tell them, not insist upon it in a mean like my way or the highway way, but just say this is something that I have done many times, and I really think that this would be a great way for us to establish communication, establish a connection, and I'll make sure that you have a full agenda ahead of time so you know what to prepare. Okay, that's often, for me, that's often what I think causes that discomfort, is that they just don't know what to expect. So thank you so much for that question. Let's see, I'm just checking to see if there are any other questions in here. Okay, I think we can take time for one more question, and that is, do you think sorry, I'm having a little, there we go. Do you think there's a way to gauge the attitude and establish expectations for yourself before joining a project team? Oh, that's a really great question. And why not? Why not ask? There must be somebody who is over you, who has assigned you to this team for a reason. So ask those questions. Or now, if you are a member of the team, ask to speak with the project manager and just ask some of these questions. Ask them in a nice way, ask them in an open-minded, heartfelt way, and I'm sure you will get the answers you seek. So I want to, before you close me out, I'm going to share my screen one last time, Ed. And let's see, here we go. Because before I turn it back to you, there's something else I want to say. So if you would like to win a copy of my book, then please email me at that email address that you see on screen, laura@seachangelearning.com. I have a copy to give away. So the first person to email me will win a copy of my book. I'll leave that up here. So please send me an email, laura@seachangelearning.com. If somebody emails me within the next few minutes, then you'll know right away who it is. Oh, Okay, I'm going to let you know, I'm just checking my phone right now. I have got, okay, the winner of the copy of my book is, let's see, Tracy. Tracy, is it Demirbis or Demirbis? You have won a copy of my book. Tracy, you're in New Westminster. So am I. That's where I'm based. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you an email and I will just let you know when it has been shipped. But Tracy, congratulations. You are the winner. Thank you so much. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for sending off that email and for your interest in my book. I would love for you to keep in touch. So I've got my website up there. You now have my email address. That's what my book looks like if you choose to dig into that further. And with that, I will then say thank you so much for today. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much to Ed and to everybody at PMI CWCC. It was an honor to be with you today. And with that, Ed, take it away.
Thank you, Laura. That was fantastic. Really enjoyed your presentation, and also very educational, and remind me of many things that I have to do in my practice. Congratulations, Tracy. Well done on the book. We've got about 2 minutes left. I am just going to share my screen one more time and make a few last-minute announcements. And give me a thumbs up if you see my screen, please. As I was mentioned earlier, that we have Meet the Candidates Night next Wednesday, the 17th, 6 to 7:30. These are the candidates for the open positions on the board. That's our next event. Of course, we have our annual general meeting with Mahan. He is our president. We will present the 2020 annual report, as well as the election for the 4 positions. Our next event, noon hour event, is in March 12th. This will be an awesome event with Juan Hao, and he is going to talk to us about the future of project management. He's going to go over a report that was published in October by the World Economic Foundation, and it is going to be really interesting in terms of what the future looks like for project management jobs. For those of you who have not filled out the survey, please fill out the survey. It is our only way to improve. We always wanted to make sure that what we're doing is relevant and is in line with your expectations. So there are 47 people in the event, and right now we have 21. So please fill out the report before you go today. Okay, and we got 1 minute left, and I'm going to give you the PDU code as soon as people fill out the survey. But all you have to do is take the code, go to your PMI login, go to your dashboard, and at the bottom there is Report PDUs. Click on that button, and all you do is click on this blue here that says I have a claim code, and then it'll give you a little box, and all you do is enter in the claims code. Please fill out our survey if you have a minute before you go. Really do appreciate it. And we'll give you a minute to do that before we give you the PDU code. And here's the PDU code. Sal, if you can please copy the PDU code in the chat box. That way people can copy and paste. That is a 0 after the C. And before we go, happy birthday, Asal. Asal's been helping us in the background, doing all the posting and getting everything organized for us.
Oh my God.
So happy birthday, Asal.
Thank you so much. You really surprised me. I really appreciate that, Ed.
Thank you for all your help.
Of course. That's my pleasure.
And that is the end of our presentation today. It is now 1 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. It is our pleasure to have these events with our guest speakers, and most importantly, it's our pleasure to have the events with you. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Have a good long weekend.